What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daddy Jeep Garage. We're working on the WJ again, getting this thing ready to finally get it on the road. Grand Cherokee came with some aftermarket, most likely rough country, lower control arms, and the bushings are absolute trash. So I picked up a set of adjustable rough country arms, and these crawler joints are, again, absolute trash. So the rebuild kits for these, for one, are discontinued, and for two, I did find a set for 50 bucks a piece. So these are just going in the garbage. So I went ahead and I ordered up a set of these forged bushings from Barnes 4-wheel drive. So these forged bushings are maybe not going to offer as much flex as a crawler joint type would, or the, what's Barnes call theirs? I can't remember what they're called, but I mean, I'm using ballistic joints on the rock crawler, which are the same type of thing, but we're just going to use these Barnes poly joints for this. They need assembled, but before we put them all together, we're going to put some grease in there. So I'm going to go ahead and reuse the jam nuts from the rough country arms. I'm pretty sure rough country couldn't screw up a jam nut, could they? So we got the jam nut threaded all the way on. We went ahead and we threaded these forged poly joints into the rough country arms. Left a little bit of space. I left the hole spacing at right around 16 inches because I think that's where I need to be. The nice thing about using these adjustable arms is I can thread these back out. I can get about an inch of front stretch and still safely have good thread engagement. So that's why I'm going with the adjustable arms. Now, I would really like the same style for the uppers. These upper arms have a much smaller, I think this is a 3/4, 12 or 14 thread count, and just a 2-inch joint on it. So Barnes used to carry a 2-inch version of the forged poly joint, but they're out of stock, and they're telling me they have no intentions of stocking them, which is really unfortunate, because I would like to run them on my uppers as well. So I'm going to keep an eye on their site. Maybe someday they'll get another order of them in. I really hope they do. And I might bother them until they do. But my uppers are currently okay. But again, if I want to stretch my lowers, I need these adjustable uppers to get that stretch. So the reason I'm going with these forged poly joints versus a crawler joint like a Johnny joint or a ballistic joint or these crappy rough country joints, because I don't really need that kind of flex with this Jeep. This Jeep is more of a daily driver-ish or overlander Jeep, if you will. I just don't need all of that performance that I would need on my rock crawler. So I think these forged poly joints are going to fill that need really nicely. They're a little less money. These are, I think, 40 bucks from Barnes. Their crawler type joints were 60 bucks. It was not a huge difference. But again, I just don't feel I need to spend that extra 20 bucks because I don't need the flexibility of these. And I think these are still going to work very well. So remember when I said my bushings were shot on my current arms? I think that qualifies as my bushings are shot on my current arms. These are absolute garbage. So now, we just have to match up the lengths as best we can, because again, you can't really tell where these are supposed to be. That's it right there. So here we are, chilling out under the Jeep in my office chair. Oh, that's great. I guess we need to measure, because these are 2 5/8. Looks like both sides. So on the Jeep, it appears that the unibody side is 2 5/8, but the axle side appears to be 3. So we got to figure out a solution for that. So I found a solution that I'm reasonably happy with. The axle side bushing of the control arms I took off was actually in pretty good shape. And these bushings are thicker on each side, and they do fit the forged poly joint. So I can just shove that in there. It fits like it should. And this end fits like it should. And we have a solution. So to get these bushings out of this upper Y-link, I had to use a press. They're rusted in there. But to go back in, I already hammered in the other one. They actually hammer in pretty easy. So we're just going to take an old bearing race to kind of spread the load evenly and just drive these suckers in. That's really all it takes. So they go in pretty easy. Now I cleaned this up. I put some rust converter and some spray paint on there so it looks good. I was going to replace the whole arm for like $130, but this whatever they call this thing, this ball joint held pretty good, and these both bushings were only like $25. So I just cleaned this up, pressed in the new bushings. Now we just got to throw it back in the Jeep. So just fisher around behind all these cables. Get it on the wrong side, then you'll have to tear it out and do it all over again. So it's definitely got to wrap around behind all that stuff. Alright, and then we might need that plastic hammer again. So it appears the captured nut plate up there moves a little bit, so you gotta wiggle a little bit to get it started and get it in just the right place. Okay, some millimeter bolts, a couple extensions, makes your life a little easier, especially on the exhaust side. I'm sure there's a torque spec, but I'm going to go with good and tight. So now we have to put the spacer back on the top of this axle because of the lift, which means we're going to have to jack this thing up a little bit. It took a little bit of a wiggling to get things out. Now with the new bushings, we're definitely going to have to compress this axle some. So see if we can get a jack underneath this. So that's what I have. I have a chunk of 2x2 square tubing on my jack, shoving that rear axle up a little bit. It's slightly sketchy, so I'm going to be very careful where I put my hands. So let's see if we can get this upper link finished up. I don't know how well you can see up there through the camera, but we're installing this spacer. It's about a 2-inch spacer. And again, it's because of the 4-inch lift on this Jeep. So that just sets up on top of the axle. Not like that, though. There we go, like so. And then we can force them back down in place, and they take a 22 millimeter wrench. So let me bring you on up inside here, just so you can see what we're fighting with. So This spacer here is, let me back you up a little bit, between the diff and the upper Y-link here. So you have to get the angles just right. So I was fighting with the third bolt, which you can't quite see. There it is back in there. But that third bolt, I wasn't getting the angle just right. So combination between the ratchet strap and the jack, a pry bar, I finally got it wiggled around so that angle was good and I can get those bolts started. So now we just got to crank them down and get them tight. So one of the first things I need to figure out on this new Jeep is how to get these doors aligned. These driver's side doors are a mess. Look, the gap down here is tightish. As we go up, it gets really wide and get hands in there. You want to get it shut all the way. It's reasonably lined up here, but it sticks out as it goes down. It's a mess, and I can't seem to get it adjusted. I've moved a bunch of things, and if you look at the front door, how it lines up, actually overlaps almost a ½ inch. I mean, it can kind of work its way in place, but I've got no gap there. If I slam it, it shoves the back door back, and it does close, but it's super tight, and then it won't open without opening the back door. So I have to open the back door first. So something is way out of whack. I haven't started adjusting the front door yet because I know the back door's out of whack, but I'm just not getting it there. So our adjustments are sliders here, so I can go forward and back. And then I have some nuts on the door, which I'm not getting much movement out of no matter how much I loosen them. So fighting with that at the moment to see what they actually do. So these bolts here that go into the door itself appear to have no adjustment. If I get my pry bar in here, I try to push it out, it doesn't move. Get in here, try to push it in, it doesn't move. So it appears these just hold the door on. There's no adjustment in those, which is very unfortunate. Because again, I think I need to bring the bottom of the door in. There doesn't appear to be a way to do that. I also forgot to mention, in order to make any adjustments, you have this inner one too. And maybe that's part of my problem. Maybe I need to take that one out completely. In order to get to that, you've got to remove the whole seatbelt cover. You actually have to remove the bottom seatbelt to get to the lower one. But maybe there's not a lot of adjustment in there. I might pull that one out and see what I can do with that out. Now that we're inside, you can see, pull this whole seatbelt cover off, and there's a hole to get you in here. So there's this hole right here that's behind the cover. Once you get in there, you can see there's another bolt head. Let's go ahead and pull that out and see what kind of adjustment there is there. Okay, now that that bolt is out, you can see there's a lot of room to move in there. But we are already forced all the way up to the top into that one corner. So let's leave this one out, do a little bit more moving around and see where we end up. So what I've determined here, guys, is this door is not going to line up because this thing is just plain bent. This whole corner is pushed down. That's why this gap is larger here and that gap is small there. The whole back corner is twisted. So that's a big problem. I think we can fix it. I have some plans, but for now I'm going to wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Make sure to come back next time to see just what we're going to do to fix this thing up. Thanks for watching.